This is Target Score Weekly with Joey Slattery and Taylor Allen. Welcome into Target Score Weekly. I'm Joey Slattery. Beside me, that is Taylor Allen. We're not actually beside each other. We record this virtually, but on the screen, we are side by side, Taylor. I think we started off with a bit of an apology. We missed last week. There was no episode last week of Target Score Weekly. Not because we didn't try, but we had a pretty busy week, Taylor. Maybe we should start with you because you had a front row seat to, well, we'll say it was definitely history, but it was so close to being very historic the moment that you were on hand for in Calgary.
Yeah, last week was one of those weeks where it's like, shoot, maybe this podcast should be called Target Score Bi-Weekly, or just take out the weekly part because, yeah, Target Score when we feel like it. But no, we do try to do the weekly thing. We will live up to the name moving forward the best as we can. But yes, last week, very busy for both of us. I was in Calgary at the Winsport Event Center, actually where the Calgary Surge plays. So it was actually really cool getting to see a different CEBL venue. So that was nice, but I was not there for basketball. I was there for the Women's Curling Nationals, the Scotty Tournament of Hearts. And we had 4 teams there, so I was very fortunate that the Winnipeg Free Press sent me to cover that. So I was very busy every day with Jennifer Jones, Kate Cameron, Caitlin Laws, and of course Team Canada and Carrie Anderson. And every team had their own story.
Team Canada.
Yes. So every team, they had a lot going on. So I had lots to do every day. But of course, the big storyline was Jennifer Jones, her final Women's Curling Nationals. And they made it all the way to the finals. Put up a good fight, but the fairy tale ending just was not meant to be. Joey Slattery. Jennifer Jones, she fell to Ontario's Rachel Homan, and Rachel Homan will be going on to the Worlds. And, it was, I think a lot of people were disappointed, but at the same time, though, I mean, Rachel Homan, she's literally lost 5 games all season. And I don't know how many curling experts tune into Target Score Weekly, but to only lose 5 games in an entire curling season is absolutely bonkers. Like, that's like a Golden State Warriors 72-10 season, or whatever the record was that year.
Probably even more impressive, actually, just based on the travel.
Yeah,
and
honestly, you're not wrong. So so Canada's getting our best representative at Worlds for sure. But Jennifer Jones, the greatest of all time, would have been cool to see her end on the high note. But yeah, it was an honor just being there, let alone getting to speak with her and cover that. So if I had to retire tomorrow, which my bank account says that's definitely not going to happen, but if I had to retire tomorrow, that might be the highlight of my career. And I've gone to cover some Grey Cups and some other cool things as well in these 5 years. But yeah, that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, that is really cool. We were rooting here from home too. It was nice because like every morning there's curling on. But I didn't get to watch that much this year because it was also the Canada West Championship Tournament, which was awesome. Like every single game with the exception of one, the Westmen, I think, blew out Fraser Valley in the, I want to say it was the quarterfinals. That was the only game that was like kind of a bit of a snooze fest in terms of there was a heavy favorite winning and doing what they're supposed to do. But obviously the story of that one was UNBC, the University of Northern British Columbia from Prince George, absolutely stunning everybody. They were the bottom 12th seed into the tournament. And the first thing they did was upset UBC, who had 2 players that played for UNBC last year and went to that program.
Unreal.
So then they beat their old teammates. And
don't see that in U Sports basketball very often. Like March Madness, you see the 15 seed knock off the 2 every couple years or whatever, but in U Sports, Canada West Hoops, like that is so rare. So when I saw you posting about that, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? The number 12 seed knocked off a 2? Like that just doesn't happen.
That's what the tournament needed, right? It needed, like, for this tournament to be a success, like you want that Cinderella. It's nice to have the 4 top teams or whatever, but what makes these tournaments so intriguing is that Cinderella effect. All you have to do is win 1 game. Like UNBC got hot, right? Like their confidence is sky high after that UBC game. They're into the quarterfinals, which, who knows whether that's on their radar at that point. They probably figured, yeah, maybe we'll steal 1. But then they beat Manitoba, the number 4 seed. So UBC was the number 5. Manitoba was the number 4, playing on home court. This has been, up and promoted for months. They have a good crowd, and that crowd was silent. UNBC, it just seemed like, okay, they're, toying with them a little bit. Okay, halftime, it's close. I think it was tied at halftime, and then they just beat them. And it was just kind of like, that was the moment where like, whoa, how real is this team? Then they play the Vikes, who are the number 1 team in the country, let alone the conference. and they go toe to toe with them. UVic does pull away towards the end, but it was not an easy win for the top team in the country, that's for sure. And then the next game they play against the number 2 seed in the tournament, Dinos, who lost to the Westmen in overtime in the semifinals, and they beat them for bronze. It was just such a great story, and this team like did not look or act like the other basketball teams. Like there was no standout star. Justin Sunga got player of the week both for Canada West and U Sports, but I mean, this was a team that was a collective effort. Like there's, all like I would say 7 guys in double digits, but none of them over like 12. You know what I'm saying? Like it was very, very much a team effort. It was fun to watch, and they kind of stole the story. But yeah, then you had this great final between UVic and the Westmen. Winnipeg gave up an 18-point lead that they built in the first quarter, and they lost. I believe it was by like 6 or 8, whatever it was. It was a close game, but the UVic repeats as champions of Canada West. Both are going back to nationals. I know the Westmen were frustrated. 2 years in a row you lose to UVic in the final, but man, like the crowd there was unreal. Sean Moranin, probably the standout player for me in that tournament. Just UVic had their guys too. Don't get me wrong. Elias Ralph stepped up for sure. Ronaldo Robinson had a huge game in the final. That guy loves the University of Manitoba gym. He had a 46-point game earlier in the season. But yeah, it was just it was a great game, and I feel like Winnipeg's going into nationals with a chip on their shoulder. They're the number 7 ranked at the U Sports Nationals, and they play Queens first, who had I don't know if you saw it on Instagram, the finish there at the OUA finals. Silas's last name puts up the buzzer beating 3 to win the game on home court, ending a ridiculous drought of the last time they've won a OUA championship. But they stormed the court, and I'm not condoning storming the court, but it was an unreal moment. So the stories that came out of this year, I don't know if you heard, AUS in the Atlantic University Sports had 25,000 people show up to their tournament in Halifax at the big arena there. Like just basketball is on the rise. It's been an unreal conference championship season, so I really hope the U Sports Nationals lives up to it. But it'll be nice to follow Winnipeg, and hopefully they can make a run as well.
Yeah, last week was a time where I wish I could be in 2 places at the same time. Like, luckily, I was kind of living vicariously through your Instagram and whatnot, and of course, reading my colleague Mike Sawatsky's stories on the event. But yeah, like honestly, like even like 5-10 years ago, like I don't remember people caring that much or being this invested or interested in Canada West basketball, but the crowd looked insane at the IGAC there. And I know there was the Westmen and the Bison both there, so that helps. But I think even if they weren't, I think people still here would be engaged and want to be going to those games and whatnot. Like that, U Sports basketball, Canada West basketball has gone so much better in these past 5 or so years. And the CEBL, and there's a bunch of other factors too that have helped that. But yeah, it's just really cool to see because again, I remember when I was in high school and stuff, like the university basketball, at least in Winnipeg, was on a decline. Like things were not pretty at either school, and now both schools are doing really well. Westman, yeah, they would like to trade, their silver medal for a gold, but 2 finals appearances in the last 2 years. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So if they could win a game or 2 at nationals, that would be a hell of a story, obviously. But either way, like yeah, that was. Again, I wish I was there, but yeah, that's really cool to see just how far it's come and how kind of healthy it is right now because we need that, right?
Yeah, it was really well attended, but like I would argue, and this isn't a knock on Canada West, but like after seeing some of the footage of the other ones, it might have been the third, like taking Quebec out of the equation.
Oh, really?
Like out of
okay.
AUS, OUA, like yeah, like there were some exciting finishes like that. The gym at Queen's University, because theirs is different. Theirs is just like a normal playoff format, and it was slammed in there when they beat Brock, and even Brock and Queens being in the final was nothing that anybody had planned because Ottawa U and U of T were 2 strong teams that got beat out in the semis. Like it was like, yeah, I would like the excitement was just all around unreal. And I feel like a lot of people are going to wish they had gone to all those games at the tournament, like doing day passes. And I think that's a thing they can market from here on in, because I'm telling you, man, like the entertainment value from that was unreal. I hope this tournament picks up steam and can get some traction behind it, because yeah, it's unreal. And even some people talking at the gym, talking about even the U Sports format, like extending it to 12 teams and having a bit more of a a week long kind of event where you've got, because there's some teams that aren't in that U Sports tournament that very well could be and would not be the Cinderella story per se to win the tournament, like a Calgary Dinos or whatever. So yeah, it's there's a few teams that aren't in there that very well could be in there. I think St. Effect's another one. So I'm really hoping with the Canada West, this is something that builds up, and then maybe it can influence that U Sports tournament, because I feel like there's a lot to be capitalized on right now. But I digress. This week we didn't even tease this yet. I can't believe I haven't said that from the start. Mason Bourcier on the podcast. He's the
Canada West
signing.
legend.
Canada West legend, Mr. Triple Double, playing out in Manchester, England right now. And he is, I think, Taylor, going to be a fan favorite here. This interview was recorded just before this, and he was really insightful. I mean, here's a guy that kind of leaves it on the line. It's a great story, and kind of, I think, reflects a lot of what Winnipeg wants in its athletes. Absolute pleasure. This is a long interview, so it's not going to feel long. It was a great chat. I won't hold you up any longer, though. Let's get right to the interview with Mason Bourcier, the newest Winnipeg Sea Bear signing and Canadian coming to Winnipeg. We welcome now the newest Winnipeg Sea Bear to the Target Score Weekly podcast, Mason Bourcier, who's joining us out in Manchester, England. How are you doing, Mason? Thanks for making the time.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. No, I'm good. I'm excited. So, yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So I guess we'll start with the first thing. I mean, you're coming off a good season with the surgery. You went to the finals, and you decided to sign on with the Winnipeg Sea Bear. So let's talk about the excitement, I guess, first. Just how excited are you to start in a new city here in the CEBL?
I'm a journeyman, I guess at this point you can call it. I've been for a few different teams. So I'm just excited after seeing what I saw last year. That fan base was just insane. Like, I've never seen anything like that in any league I've been in. So that was awesome to experience that. I feel like it's just the way all the way from the management to the coaching staff, the way they've geared the whole operation towards player experience and development, and like really making sure that when I leave this summer, knowing I'll be getting better as a basketball player, it excites me. So I'm definitely excited to see all the fans, definitely excited to play in the arena. But I'm more excited just knowing the personalities that are on board. I just knowing we're going to have good vets, guys that I want to be around, guys that kind of have similar belief systems. So, everything's lining up to be a super exciting summer.
Speaking of those wild Winnipeg Sea Bears fans, kind of because of them, I kind of learned a little bit about you last year, Mason, just watching you play. I remember there was a game in Winnipeg. I won't say their names, but there were these two guys who sit courtside, and they're pretty vocal towards some of the opposing players, and for whatever reason, they decided to pick on you for that game. And they weren't saying anything too mean, but they were just, repeating your name and just, trying to get in your head a little bit. And you wouldn't even give them the satisfaction of looking in their direction. I remember at one point you drilled a three and didn't even look at them, didn't shrug your shoulders, didn't do nothing. I was like, okay, this guy's if there's one thing about this guy, he's mentally tough, because I think a lot of people that would get in their head and whatnot, but you didn't even look in their direction. You were kind of laughing a little bit. I take it you kind of remember that experience.
Well, I have two things to say to that. One, I wouldn't call it a formal introduction, but they did comment on the last post, so I did find out they're called the tracksuit guys. I found that out, if that's them. And I remember, it's funny because that was the first time I've ever experienced just I was singled out and it's my turn to get heckled. That was my first time. Usually it's other guys, so that was interesting to hear my name. Just it's funny because when it's your first time, you're trying to figure out am I wearing something weird? Did I do something? What is it? And then you just realize that's just what they do. So it's funny, but it's funny because you also said how I didn't even look at that three that I know exactly which one you're talking about. That three, a guy on the other side bet me $25 that I wouldn't hit my next three. So that's where that came from. So yeah. So I had a good experience with the fans over there. Went right to him after the game and he handed it to me and nothing happened. It was beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. There you go. But no, it wasn't the Tracksuit Brothers. It was these two other guys that were chirping you all the games. So.
Oh, it was.
It was it was the guys who sit beside the Tracksuit Bros. But maybe the Tracksuit guys were getting in on the action too. But
all I know is there was a lot of different voices. There was a lot.
So going back to last year, Mason, I mean, it was kind of a similar situation as to Winnipeg in the sense that it wasn't an expansion team, but the team moving from Guelph to Calgary and really making their first impression with a whole new community. What did you learn from that experience? I mean, obviously it went really well. You came within a game of taking it all, but what was that experience like playing out in Calgary last year for a new franchise, really trying to establish itself in its community?
Well, it's interesting. It's starting to become like an ongoing joke, I guess, in my inner circle. Just the fact that, I mean, Newfoundland, you look at Newfoundland, when they were the Growlers, that was their first year. So I was with them. And then when the Fraser Valley Bandits started in the CEBL, their first year, I was with them. So like I haven't gone to any teams that haven't been a new expansion or like a newly set team. So it's been fun because I have got to see so many different like interesting details that you don't get to see from like I would call it, what's a good way to put it? Just like an already set, organized institution, like anything. Like when especially even over here, like it's new owners, everything. So I'm getting used to just, I guess I would call it chaos in a sense, because in any new situation, there's a lot of just um, unprepared circumstances I've noticed. So when I was in Calgary, I was pleasantly surprised with how many things they kind of had figured out that a lot of the other programs I've been at haven't really ironed out those details yet. So going to Calgary, I was wowed at just the organization and like it felt like that team has been around for 30 years, the way the fans embraced it and the way the fans just treated everyone. Like they knew everything about me. They knew who I was. And it was just like, they were so excited to have us out there. And that feeling of like, you can tell Calgary wanted something is times 3 in Winnipeg. When I look at a Winnipeg, I'm just like, you can tell they're yearning for basketball. You can tell there's excitement to have this team there. And so that's kind of the same sense I got in Calgary. And that's why I'm super excited, because this is technically my first time joining an organization for its second year, not just, so like, it would be nice if I could spend some more time with them, but yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to kind of have some of those variables that usually aren't figured out right away already kind of ironed out, which is what I'm excited for with Winnipeg. So
I kind of want to go back a bit, Mason. Your U Sports career, you had a very unique career, very successful career. Started out at UBC, transferred to Carlton, and then end up at Trinity Western, who's a volleyball school, but you kind of made them into a basketball school in your couple of years there. But maybe we'll kind of start with, going to UBC to Carlton, how you were able to kind of overcome, you had to sit out a year or two, right, before going to Trinity and continuing your career and ending on a high at the end. But maybe take us through what that kind of journey was like for you.
It's interesting that, like that period of life for me was kind of like, that was what I thought really helped me become a man. Like that was what took my identity out of basketball and then showed me like, what are your belief systems? What's important outside of basketball? Why do we need to become, strong, independent men? Like all these like big questions that have nothing to do with basketball. That kind of point in life was huge for me. So when I left UBC, that kind of started the whole process, because like you said, I went to Carlton, and at that time it was all basketball. Like it was just basketball. So for me, going to Carlton was the peak of achievement, because that's all I ever heard about. And it's funny, like I get this question so much. Sometimes I mean, at the times I didn't even know how to answer it, because they said, why'd you leave Carlton? And I've thrown around like a lot of half true reasons why I left, but the real true reason for me is, like I said, I was going through this moment where I was trying to figure out what I believed in, and I kind of had this moment with my belief in not only Christianity but also just myself. Like, okay, I was in a really tough spot, like dealing with depression, dealing with some really dark times, and I didn't have basketball as an escape, so I had to learn how to actually like think through some of these things I was harboring. And it was funny. I was like, you know what? I got a call from the coach of Trinity Western who was like, we don't have much here right now, but we have a home for you. And he knew I was kind of struggling with everything, because I was about to quit basketball at that time, right before I committed to go to Trinity Western. So I was literally like weeks away from quitting, just because of everything I was dealing with and trying to figure out who I was. And I remember when he reached out, I was like, you know what, this is my opportunity to put my beliefs into what I think is true, which was God and Christianity at the time. So I thought that was a period for me to take my identity out of basketball and put it into what I really wanted my being to be set in. And then it's funny, because what I thought was the kind of like the decline to my basketball career, where I was going to start to shift into other things, even though that love for the game was still there. It wasn't like I was like, I'm done with basketball. I just thought like that's how the cards were set with COVID and everything. And it was just the start of just like all the work that I put in that I thought never showed up for some reason at Trinity, it just felt like it all played out. Like all the work that I was putting in times where nobody was watching, like the extreme hours that I thought went down the drain when I was sitting out for 2 years, just seemed to kind of come to fruition when I was at Trinity, and things started to fall in place. And then once I kind of had a huge playoff run that first year in Trinity, that's when the CEBL came calling back, and that's kind of what's brought me to this point now.
Mason, you told me a story last year when you were in town playing the Sea Bears about a chance interaction with a homeless person, mm-hmm. and how that kind of changed your whole perspective on basketball, and not, I wouldn't say just basketball, it kind of seemed like life and just how to approach basketball. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about that encounter and what happened and how it changed you?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so for a preface, I'll say it's funny because when I told you that story, I didn't get to say like the whole journey, which is what I just got to answer. So it's fun you asked me this question now. So I literally, like I was saying, like just going through, I feel like a process that all humans go through, which is like identity crisis, trying to figure out what to believe and all that. And it was just this moment that I don't know what it was, but it just, everything seemed to click on and off the court for me. And it's funny because at the time I wasn't a shooter. And if you look at now, that's like what I'm known for, shooting. But if you look at that, before then, I was shooting like 20% of college, whatever. And I'm the guy that's every miss, I'm yelling, screaming, swearing, like I'm annoyed at myself for every miss, right? And so I was in Venice Beach, and this was supposed to be like my vacation where my mom was trying to like help me just like, you know, take a step back from basketball, stop overthinking, because it was just like ruining my mental at the time. And I couldn't. I was literally at 9 p.m. on what was supposed to be holiday, and I was going to the Venice Beach courts at night just to see if I can figure out my jump shot again, like any other day. And this homeless man comes up to me, just watching me like struggle and get annoyed and all that. And he's just like, "Yeah, I can tell you're good, and I can tell you're passionate, but you're so hard on yourself, and you're trying so hard. Just throw it up there. It's probably gonna go in." And I to this day, I don't know what it is, but like my mindset on shooting, my mindset about basketball has just been so much more like, if it doesn't work out perfectly, it's okay. Like, and sometimes it's hard for people to fully like grasp it. For me, like I just needed to grasp it, and ever since then, I've not only been amazing off the court, but I've been able to hit shots that I wasn't hitting before. You know, so.
There's that famous story where the Browns general manager was walking down the street one day, and this homeless man says to him, "You need to draft Johnny Manziel." And then he ended up drafting Johnny Manziel, and obviously that didn't work out very well. So at least you got some good advice from the homeless person there. So there you go.
It upped my 3-point percentage. We can put it that way, you know.
There you go. There you go. Is that a Steve Nash Suns jersey hanging behind you?
Oh, always. Yeah, always. Yeah.
Fellow BC boy, just maybe take us through your Steve Nash fandom.
Oh man, I mean, my favorite picture ever taken was me sleeping in like a Steve Nash jersey when I was probably like 7 or 8, and it was on a bus back from a tour where we got to see the Phoenix Suns playing like Portland. And at the time, like there's no NBA near us, and that was when the Portland Trailblazers and the Supersonics were still there. So like, Portland's already there, but the Supersonics were still there, and I remember I got this chance, and it was like, to me, I mean, it's like any kid, but like in BC, it's like Winnipeg, like you don't see that type of talent, especially before the CEBL and all this stuff's happening. Like being able to see an NBA player up close was like unheard of. So I went on this bus tour to go see them, and I remember I got to ask Steve Nash a question, and I was like, I think I asked him, what did you practice the most? Like, if I was like, if I want to get to where you are, what do I have to do? What do I practice the most? And he said, you have to shoot, you have to dribble more than anybody ever. And that night, after I saw him play, I bought one of those little mini Trailblazers, like it was like a mini Trailblazers hoop that you can put up on the door with a little ball. And it was on a bus tour for like 6 hours, and everybody's sleeping, and I was shooting, making noise, like dribbling this little fake ball like all night long. Like everyone on the bus was just like annoyed, but I could tell they were like, this kid's just happy to be here, so like let him do it. But yeah.
That's awesome. It's funny because when I was in high school, one of my coaches actually was a Carlton guy, and he called it, we used to do this one drill, and he swore it was a Steve Nash drill. And I was wondering if you're going to say it, because it was like the most annoying drill, because we always had to like it was to use your legs shooting. You had to get down so low that you could touch the ball, like touch the ground with the ball before you go up. So I was kind of hoping, I'm like, maybe that's the Steve Nash drill. Maybe this is what Mason.
I do that I do it every day. I do that drill every day.
Really,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah, I do it every day. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I like that.
I didn't know it was a Steve Nash drill though. I always heard Steve Nash was the warm up where he would circle under the hoop and just shoot shots. Like I know a different one, but yeah, I do that one every day for rhythm. Yep.
I grew up in Timmins, Ontario, man. Like someone says that, we just run with it. We have
Yeah.
nothing to
Yeah.
quantitate that. That's if that was it, we went with it. But yeah, okay. So going back to your time at Trinity Western, it's pretty cool, and I want to link it on the show notes. You had a pretty cool documentary in your last year,
Mm-hmm.
Where you had a camera follow you around, where you open up about this journey quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What was that year? You touched on it a little bit, but when you look back on that documentary and what you went through, and kind of how the Trinity experience helped you, I mean, what was the big thing that helped you at Trinity Western? Because it did seem like you had a tight relationship with the coaches, and they really respected you as well. So where was that? I guess that moment that really helped you elevate your game and helped you kind of realize that confidence that, yes, beyond this, I can play professionally? Because you came from some pretty big programs too, going to one that wasn't as, celebrated.
Yeah. I mean, and this is a tough one to answer because there's so many things to it. Like the first thing I'll say is I remember after like I was dealing with all like the personal identity questions and belief systems, all that, when I got to like the basketball side of things, I was like, if I can go to Trinity Western and I can take down these Titans and I can put on a show and like I can really take this team from literally a 0-win team to an over 500 team win, I know that I can play. Like I know I'm a professional if I can do that. Because it's one thing to go to a team with all these high level players and win with them that they've been winning the whole time. What is like that doesn't say anything about you. It says everything about the program. And this was like, obviously I didn't go to Trinity to try and be the Mason show. It was far bigger than that. It was me dealing with all types of things, just making sure I was okay. But I was thinking, like I said, if I can take this team and make it something special, I know that says more about my leadership, my ability to create for others and be a true playmaker. Like it said so much about my game, and it forced people to look at so many areas of my game that nobody knew I had. Like nobody knew I was a triple double threat until I was given the platform to be like, all right. And like we were just talking about Steve Nash, his template for his offense was 4-second offense. It was Steve Nash offense with the Phoenix Suns. So it was run and gun. It was get the defensive board and go. And for me, who I was finally healthy at that point, which was like rare for me, like my first year there, it was like letting a dog off of a chain. Like you've had this guy pent up who's been like, even when I was dealing with depression and all that stuff, I was in the gym 2-3 times a day, all day. I was in the gym every morning at UBC. Like I was obsessed. Like it was like sick to the point of how much I would practice sometimes. So when I finally got that chance to be like, you know what, here's the keys. This is an offense that works for you, and I don't want to test your confidence, which is what I struggled with at the time. He allowed me to really start to like get over the hump of confidence and then just say, all right, I got a coaching staff that trusts me. I got players that trust me. And I finally was able to get over all the mental stuff I was dealing with. And it was just basketball at that point. And for me, it was beautiful. I finally got to enjoy the game that I've been missing for 3 to 4 years of enjoyment. So.
I mean, for those that don't know, Trinity, they won, what was it, like 9 games in 6 years before you got there. Like
they lost. They were 0 and they lost 3 years straight without a win until I got there.
Yeah. Not good. But there was one thing that you did there that I don't think Winnipeg people will be very happy about, Mason. You mentioned your triple doubles. You broke the Canada West record for most triple doubles. And you took the record away from Winnipeg Westman legend, Irfan Najapur. Very popular player here. He lives in Toronto now. That was the guy that I grew up watching with the Westman. Like he was just head and shoulders above everyone here. He was so much fun to watch. And you ripped the record away from our hometown hero here, Mason. So you might catch some flack for that. I'm just warning you. So just keep that in mind when you get here this summer.
Hey, all I'm gonna say, when the comparisons come, just tell them I did it in 1 month. He did it in 4 years. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Well, take us through the art of a triple-double. We don't see that very often in U Sports, right? And you broke the conference record. So take us through the art of a triple-double. And when you're on the court and the rebounds and the assists are stacking up, like do you know, like, okay, I need 2 more rebounds. I need 1 more assist. Or do you really not know until the end, like, hey, you had a triple-double?
It was funny. Like I had no idea. I mean, so before, because like I said, in this 1 month stretch, I think I had four like in a like not in a row, but it was like triple double, and then missed one, triple double, missed one, triple double, and it was just like I was doing very similar numbers before those games, but it's just like that one assist would get me over the hump, or one rebound would get me over the hump, and all of a sudden, oh, it's triple double. But I was doing it before. It's just I didn't have the 10, 10, and 10. Like, and for me, I wasn't. I never ever check. Even this entire year, I can tell you right now, I only checked my stats once this entire freshman year. I don't like stats. I never have. I never will. And yes, it does tell a picture, but it is leading so many kids away from playing the right way. So I'm not a big fan of stats. So when people were like, "Were you checking?" No, I just had a motor, and I think a lot of it people ask like, because a lot of people said to me that the impressive part was the rebounds. And I don't know, it was just a mix of one, I'm very dedicated and disciplined in the weight room. Two, I take defense extremely seriously, which I don't think people realize how much helps with triple doubles. And I'm pass first by nature, which is very rare to find. Like the only other guy that I can really think of is a guy who plays in your area, Winnipeg, Sean, the little point guard there. I love his game. Like anyone who sees the value in making others around him better before himself is a talent that we don't really value enough. So
Well, you speak about, the CEBL for a Sean Moran, and I mean, just the other week he set the Canada West record for assists in a playoff game with like 18. It was insane. But here's a guy who didn't get drafted to the CEBL, but he was able to join on as a practice player. Him and Mason Krause from U of M, right? So you're seeing some of that every day going through that grind, even if you're not playing. Sometimes that might be the drive in itself. I didn't play, but I practiced all summer with those guys, and like his game elevated. It was already really good, but I'm excited to watch him at nationals as well. He had a great Canada West tournament. So when you talk about getting the keys with Trinity Western, another guy that has a similar story to you is Teddy Allen, right? When coming in professionally here to Winnipeg, and he talked about that with Coach Mike Taylor on an earlier podcast a few weeks ago, where he talks about the ability to be the leader of the team, not necessarily in scoring, just, kind of given the keys to, it being his team and everybody knowing that, so on and so forth. How much excitement did you get from that, like before you signed, knowing he was signing on and coming back, and knowing that your stories are somewhat similar, just that his took place mostly south of the border and yours took place north of the border?
I mean, to me, a story is, I wouldn't say complex, but it's unique as mine. Usually tells you that that person has like that, just a sense of like security. Like when I think of Teddy, like the first time I matched up with him out here, it was cool. Because you never expect a guy like me, he's the MVP of the CEBL. You don't expect like much respect, not respect, but just like the recognition. And first thing he saw me when I was defending him on the court, he was like, "Yo, bro, how you doing?" And like for me, that's huge. Like just a sign of respect of like, man, he has no reason to even know my name. As much as last year I had a little bit of good performances, but it's just for me, I see Teddy buckets, I hear about all this. So for him to have the humility, just give me recognition, knowing I'm from the same league, we came from there, like that was cool to me. And then knowing he's a man of God, from what I've heard, is huge for me. So I think it's cool how our journeys line up a little bit, and I also think it's going to be awesome how our games really complement each other, because it's hard to predict and it's hard to really say what something's going to be, but I know what I bring is going to help him a lot. I know I'm going to be able to take some pressure away from him, and I know if they try to apply pressure to him, I'm going to be able to make shots when they try to double him or whatever they try to do, and I just know it's going to be really exciting. But it's funny because people are you excited to play with Teddy? I am, but I'm just more excited to just get to know who he is. Like that's kind of the point where I've gotten in my career, is you learn more from a guy on and off the floor by meeting who he is. Like that's what I've learned, because you can't have these conversations where guys give you your secrets and their tips here and there until you really show them that you're there to like be a high character person first, So
Mason, you're the first person we've had on the show who's played against Teddy. We've had Teddy and all his teammates, really, but maybe take us through what it's like being on the opposite sideline, the opposite locker room when you're game planning or trying to game plan to slow down Teddy. What's that like? Or do you have a most memorable? I was going to say favorite, but there's probably no favorite moment playing against Teddy Allen. Do you have a most memorable moment going up against Teddy?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, my best moment probably wouldn't be a very fun moment for any fans of that team, because my best moment was when we got him kicked out of the game. So we got him kicked out of the game and we won by 30. It was my best moment, because that means I did my job. But
What happened there?
Oh, I just know he wasn't making shots that night, and me and another guy on our team, Admon Gilder, and he's one of the best defenders I've ever seen. So I just know, like, we did a good job of just like being pests that day and just not giving him anything he wanted. And I just remember he threw the ball off the backboard or something and got his tee, and just like they sent him out, and that was kind of his game. But I just knew I was like I'm a big philosophy guy, so Sun Tzu Art of War, like, win the fight without fighting is usually the best way to win. So like, to me, I'm like, okay, if we can get him out the game, shoot, that's me doing my job on defense, you know. So, but I will say, guarding Teddy, like I guarded Justin Wright Foreman, like I've guarded a lot of high level guys. Nobody gets their shot off like he does. Nobody. And that's something you can't scout for. That's something you just have to pray doesn't go in, because when he decides, when that mental thing in his brain says, yeah, I'm shooting it, you better just hope it doesn't go in, or you better hope your positioning's good when he decides to shoot it, because it's just so quick and he makes them. So
it is crazy too. I remember when he first got here, like some of the shots he put up, you're like, man, it doesn't even look like it's going to be anywhere near the rim, and then it's nothing but nylon. Like it could be such a tricky release, especially under pressure, where it looks like he's just putting up a prayer, but they go in. Like, it's not a prayer. Like, this is something that he practices, right? We got used to it as the season went on. But I remember like that first couple of games, we were getting used to his style of play live, you know, because you watch it on TV or, you know, his highlights from his NCAA. It's just different, right? Like, everything looks a little different from the angle, but when you're watching it at floor level, it's just a whole different game. But yeah, he's very impressive. Both of you guys are in the BBL right now. This is your first full pro season too, right? Out playing out overseas. What's that experience been like out in Manchester?
It's been crazy. I'm gonna be honest. It's been like, there's been some things that I had no idea I'd have to deal with out here in terms of just like living. Like the organization's been super up and down. It's like super volatile. Like I said, I've been a journeyman, so I've seen like how new organizations can kind of like how they can fluctuate. And here is like very volatile. So like, well, some days are like the biggest highs of highs. Some days are super low, and we definitely struggled this year. Like we're not gonna make playoffs, and we've had a lot of struggle as like our coaches trying to figure out what our philosophies are going to be and whatnot. And so it's been like the classic learning experience of, one, figuring out how to live, just be a human being out in a different country is a huge part of it. All the little details you never think about. And two is like, it's such a hard thing to do, to take everything you've built in one country, the name, the player, and go to a whole new area where they don't know anything about you. They don't care who you are. They don't care what you've done. And to them, you're just a new player who has to prove himself. So that pressure on my back kind of slowed me down at the start, because I was like, oh, wait a minute. They don't know I'm a 3-point shooter. And if I miss these 4 shots, these first 2 games or whatever, they're thinking I'm a streaky shooter. So like all these kind of little insecurities played through my head. So like, it was fun getting a chance to like test my confidence, getting a chance to test my courage, getting a chance to like actually have what I'm weak at exposed, because I haven't gotten this much better in a year in my entire career. And I can say that with so much confidence, but it's also been like the most random up and down like year of just so much like losing, like not in a basketball sense, but just like losing, like going to practice and just having an awful day at practice and not knowing why, or just being sick one day, being injured in the next, and just like a lot of things piling on top of each other. So it's been a great character building year. And I'm super excited, because I think I'm going to pull a lot of things out in Winnipeg that nobody expects me to have, as far as athleticism, offensive ability. Like, I have a lot of things in my game that I haven't been able to show yet, and I'm excited to use it. Yeah.
What's the biggest difference when it comes to style of play between the CEBL and the BBBL, do you find?
I mean, I don't know if this answers that question correctly, but I guess this is a good way to put it. But I've noticed like teams have like very specific identities. So it's different from when you play in the CEBL. A lot of the teams just play very similar basketball. It's very up and down, very quick, a lot of transition, a lot of heavy guard play. Whereas here, you'll play Newcastle Eagles, which is all about just very talented guards, up and down, very like CEBL. Then you go play at Sheffield Sharks, who are a completely different team. They slow everything down the half court. They're forcing you to go through all your set. They're forcing you to see all your options, and they're waiting for you to make a mistake, and you're running 20 seconds off the shot clock every possession. And you don't realize the chess and the different moves they're making until you get up to a professional level like this, and you realize, oh my gosh, like whatever I thought I knew, I don't know anything. Like that's really what it, and I might be over exaggerating a bit, but it was like, I realized when I'm coming off a ball screen, before I was only seeing 2 options, and now I'm seeing 12 different options. Just because I'm going up against these defenses who are very, like, you're not going to get up an early shot unless it's an awful shot. Whereas in the CEBL, you can get away with a lot of drag screens and transition and pulling up on a dime because everyone's in a drop coverage now. And so, like, you can kind of get used to the same pattern of, I know where the big is going to be when I come off this ball screen. But then when you come over here, certain teams, they're so well prepared. They can throw out 8 different coverages and they're ready for all the different options. So, yeah, I guess it would be like learning how to actually play the game of chess and not just going out there to play. Like really learning that there's like a philosophy behind how to approach the game, how to make decisions, and just the layers to it. I've seen actions this year that I've never seen in basketball before, and it's all with a purpose. So like they'll make you work for 20 seconds here, and if you have a weakness, they'll expose it.
All right. It's almost target time, so I'll end with this. For those who may not have seen you play here in Winnipeg, what is your I don't want to say sales pitch, but what should fans be expecting when they come to the rink or to the arena this year and they see Mason Bourcier? What should they be looking out for?
Well, I'll say what I'm trying to show that people don't know I have is I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with the athleticism. Dealing with injuries and whatnot, I've been able to show the way I wanted to. I'm pleasantly surprised with that, so I think everyone else will be. But my bread and butter is playmaking. Yeah, I'm a shooter, but your guy Teddy is going to be getting points. Like you're going to make sure that Chad Posmus, when he gets the ball, it's right under the rim for a clean dunk. And I'm just going to make sure that whatever the defense does to stop us, I go to our counters. Like I think I'm a very good decision maker, or at least improving, and I think I'm a great playmaker. So yeah, and defense. I think I'm underrated defensively everywhere I go. So.
All right, Taylor, is it ready? Are you ready? Is it time?
It's time.
All right, time for target time. All right, Mason, this is, we said before, this is the longest form of rapid fire you're ever going to experience. Never finishes fast. Kind of like target time. There is no time limit in the game. There's no time limit in the questions. So I will start a series of fun questions, just what comes to mind. I know you're a person that also likes to reflect. You're a music guy. You talked about that in the documentary a little bit, walking out and relaxing. So kind of a 2-part question. What is your go-to chill song to just kind of let go, relax? And then what's your go-to, need something immediately to get amped up? What's the song that's getting you amped up in a second?
Wow, that's a loaded question for a man
right.
like me.
This is why it's not fast.
It's not rapid fire at all. Jeez, man. Okay. One that always puts me in a good mood. Let's just put something out there like I'm like Change by J. Cole. That's like puts me in a good mood. Yeah, Change by J. Cole, and then something that needs to hype me up. Almost anything by Lil Baby, to be honest. But I will go with. I'll switch it up and I'll say "Feel" by Kendrick Lamar.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
All right,
Yeah.
man. We're gonna have to get you to do a playlist or something here on Spotify.
Oh, I got playlists
Mason's
for days. I'll make 50 in an hour.
Okay, so
shout out to former. Sorry, Joey.
I was just gonna go to that. I was gonna say sub question. Did you play J. Cole that season? Is that when you were with the Growlers? What was that like?
That was okay. That was the coolest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like, the coolest ever. I'm gonna be honest, like, because I'm a huge J. Cole fan before that even happened, and then the fact that like I come from a small town where I've never seen a Drake, I've never seen a J. Cole, even Brandon Sampson that year. I was in awe to meet Brandon Sampson. He was just my teammate, and nobody even knows who that is probably. He played on the Bulls, so like for me, yeah, that was crazy because Drake was sitting courtside and all the rappers were watching, and J. Cole subbed into no role models, and the whole crowd was going. I'm like, it was so surreal. Like my best play of the game was like a lob from the inbounds, and he was guarding me, and I was like, that moment was like, yeah, top moment of my whole career. Like, it's up there. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like the bonus question here of target time. Sorry, Taylor. I hope that wasn't one of your target time questions.
No, it wasn't. I was going to make a J. Cole comment as well, so I'm glad you got in there with that. We got to get him back in the league. Us Winnipeggers, we got robbed of the J. Cole experience, so that's too bad.
Halftime show. I'm telling you, man, for the championship.
Yeah, at the very least.
Imagine.
So, Mason, as I know you're a Kelowna guy, BC guy, so I'm coming to you for the big scoop here. The Vancouver Grizzlies. Are they ever, or Vancouver, are they ever going to get an NBA team back?
I mean, I hope they will, but like, I don't know. I don't hear it. Like, these Americans don't care about Vancouver, man. Like, you see the commissioner, he's never talking about Vancouver. I wish, like, I would do anything to get that, but I've heard talks of it, but then again, I've been hearing talks forever, so I have no idea. I feel like a Supersonics will come back before Vancouver.
Yeah. Especially with that.
I think Vegas would get a team before Vancouver as well. Yeah. So,
it's funny too, though, because not too long ago, the commissioner dropped Montreal and Vancouver in a random Boston Celtics broadcast because Mike Gorman is going. This is last year as the play-by-play, so they have these guests coming in, and he just randomly drops. I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm watching the game like, whoa, because I knew Montreal wanted a team for a long time, and they have the arena and so on and so forth. But then I saw something the other day where it was like, oh, baseball, like Major League Baseball might expand into Vancouver. And like, what kind of a world would that be where Vancouver gets a baseball team and Montreal gets the basketball team? It would just be so flip-flopped. I'm not saying I'm against it, but it would just be very, very weird. But then call the Vancouver team the Grizzlies for baseball and the Expos for basketball. Just really mess it all up.
Oh, just
I like that.
Okay, well, that would make a lot of people mad over there. I'll tell you that.
I bet. Okay, so if you could have coffee with one basketball hero influence, you talked about Steve Nash, and one non-basketball influence all at the same time, who would you take out? You have one basketball person, one non-basketball person that you could have coffee with. Who would you be taking with?
Kobe Bryant, Carl Young.
Okay, and why for both?
I like this question because a lot of people don't know this about me, but I mean, Kobe Bryant obviously is a basketball player. It's dream competitor, and his philosophy and just the way his career shifted and who he turned into, is the most inspiring thing ever. The way he became such a great storyteller was awesome. But I'm huge just into the mind. So when I talked about that period I went through, dealing with my depression, anxiety, all that stuff, trying to figure out who I was was huge on character development and on psychology. And Carl Jung, a German psychoanalyst, psychologist, philosopher, I guess if you want to call it. I think he's written the best books on just the development of the mind, and that was kind of my thing that took me away from basketball, that helped me just give me a break from basketball. So I just studied philosophy, and after reading Carl Jung's work, he seemed like the best mentor that nobody knows about. The way he talks about how important, having true values and morals are. And it's funny that no one believes when I say this, but the work I've done with philosophy and the readings of Carl Jung that I've done, and a guy like Jordan Peterson, who you guys might know, these things I did outside of basketball helped me more with basketball than a lot of times the actual basketball did. All the books I read, all the philosophy, my ability to reason with myself and teach myself logic, I swear it helps you making decisions in the game of basketball. I'll put my life on it. So
when people ask me that, I know my answer right away. Carl Young and Kobe Bryant every time.
Is there a book from Carl Young that you would recommend for the first time reader? Like if there was one book you had to pick up to start, is there one that you think stands out that someone's listening is like, I'm going to give him a shot?
Those books, I'm going to be honest, are very like heavy at first.
Okay. So not one you're going to pick up for casual reading.
If you're a casual reader and you want to start like along those lines, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that book. It's a great book. Yeah.
Well,
See,
I got a C in
book recommendation. I love this.
There you go. I got a C in sports psychology at the University of Winnipeg, so I guess that makes sense why I didn't amount to a very good basketball player. So it all adds up, Mason. It all adds up. But my next target time question for you, in your first episode of your documentary on YouTube, you were kind of talking some smack about video games. You know how you're a tough guy to beat.
Yeah.
So what's your best video game?
Apex Legends, without a doubt. Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody really knows. I mean, people know about it, but no one respects it. But Apex Legends, I'm a demon at that game. Yeah.
What's number 2?
I got all this time. Oh, number 2? So that's tough because, you know, the Hooper wants to say 2K, but I think 2K has been on a rapid decline lately. Just I don't want to buy anymore. I'm not a fan of the series anymore, but Call of Duty, same thing. I want to say Call of Duty, but I think they're on decline too, but I'll go with Call of Duty just because how, like, that used to be my game when I was younger, like, even older. Call of Duty is a classic. And I'll work you at Call of Duty too. Let's get that straight. Nobody beating me at any of those games.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
When I was in university, we used to have like every now and again, someone would bring their TV, so it'd be like Halo parties where they'd split the screen into 4, but you'd be like 4 versus 4, and I'm not.
On the tiny little screen.
Yeah, and I'm not a gamer, right? So like, no one wanted me on their team because I was the dude who's like doing this all over the place and like dying and killing their own people and stuff. Yeah, I was not a big gamer. Also, on the 2K front, NBA Live was my era. Like, I had a hard time when 2K first came out. I didn't get into it, and then it got a lot better for sure. Man, I miss like the EA Sports games. They were awesome. That's
NBA Live got so bad at the end though. Like at a sweet prime, you know. But then like when Jason Kidd with the Nets was on the cover, like those or Vince Carter with the Raptors, those were kind of the glory days. But the last couple of years of NBA Live were like, oh my goodness, this is a PS1 game basically. So,
yeah. All right, my next question. Favorite new discovery living in Manchester?
Favorite new discovery?
Doesn't have to be basketball, just anything that's been kind of cool that you found in Manchester that's unique to there that you've enjoyed?
I have a great answer for this already too. One of my first things, so I live with my girlfriend out here and I'm always trying to think of like, okay, everyone goes to bars, everyone goes to clubs, like I don't see, like, there's only so many times you can do the same thing over and over again. So I was like on this trek to find new things out here. And it's called Crazy Pool. So it's like, you're playing pool, but it's mini golf. So you know how mini golf, they have like the little obstacles in the way?
Yeah.
So they're doing that, but it's pool. So like, you're shooting like a little golf ball with a pool cue, and like there's little like things in the way, and you gotta try to get it right in the hole. It was one of the funnest things I ever did. And they have literal Mario Kart. Like,
really?
They have Mario Kart out here. Yeah, that thing.
You're in the cart in like the.
Yeah, and you drive around, and it's like all like digital. So like if you run over a power up, you can stop all the other cars, and you keep going. Like it's it's sick. It's sick.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, I've been forced to go to some weird places, try to find new things. So I'm telling you, Mario Kart and Crazy Pool, bring it to Canada. Need it.
That's awesome. I thought you were gonna say like, you know, tea time and like, I don't know, crumpets or something. Like I thought you were gonna go very English. Like
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the traditional English stuff. I've been out here long enough. I'm not a fan. The beans and the mushrooms. I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna need Tinkertown out here to step their game up because those are some pretty damn good attractions. My goodness, wow. My next question: you're joining a team with some guys that have some pretty cool nicknames. Teddy Buckets for Teddy Allen, the Beast from River East for Chad Postumus. But in your estimation, what's the best basketball nickname out there?
Like mine or out there in general?
Just out there in general. And if you have a nickname too, I'd love to hear it. But out there in general, what would you think? Like it could even be a legend or today or anyone. What's the best basketball nickname you think there is?
I like this question a lot. I mean, I'm gonna go old school and like. There's probably some pretty cool new like woody ones, but hot sauce, like the N1 street ball guy. Hot sauce is like to me the coldest nickname ever. Like when I used to watch like the N1 mixtapes on YouTube and just seeing the name Hot Sauce and like the way, it's cold. He's got the best nickname.
Nice. Do you have a nickname?
Everyone calls me Money Mace. Like it's
not bad.
easy, it's simple, it's not bad.
I like
it. But the old school one. This is funny. I used to be Babyface Mace. Everyone used to call me Babyface Mace.
I like that too.
Yeah.
That's a good one. For me, the N1 was Skip to My Lou, because then when Rafer Alston played for the Raptors, you know, it's just like so like mind blown that the guy from N1 was actually like a decent NBA player too. But props on the hot sauce drop. That's great.
Yeah. I thought I'd bring back the N1 days.
So if you're not playing basketball, you're what? Fill in the blank.
Oh. Okay, so I do like reading in my free time, but I don't know if that'd be like my go-to. You said earlier I go on like a lot of walks. Like I just like to go for walks and like reflecting. Like I think it's powerful. Like, jeez, man, that's a good question. Because back home, I'd walk the beach or something. Here, it's either Apex Legends or it's just going for a walk through the park or it's reading. Like, yeah, I'm super simple. Like, I want to get into a side hustle. I want to do new things, but for me, it's like if I'm not watching film, if I'm not playing basketball, which is most of my time, it's reading. Reading will probably be like my closest option. Going for a walk, if I'm not going to like Mario Kart or something.
Yeah, no, I'm Mario Karting. That's my next career, professional Mario Kart driver.
It would be fun. I'm telling you, that was cool.
Well, maybe it's a good thing you're out there getting used to not walking along nice British Columbia beaches, because I'm sorry to break it to you, when you come to Winnipeg, you won't exactly be walking along the beach.
Hey,
the Red River doesn't quite have the same,
Respect the Riverwalk, Taylor. Come on.
It's nice. Don't get me wrong, but it's just it's a different vibe. We'll put it that way. We'll leave it at that.
In a 10-minute walk from my mom's place to downtown, there's 8 beach accesses back home. So that's tough.
You will find 0 from anywhere to the rink here to the arena here.
Yeah, that's okay. But that's actually the perfect segue for my next question. You've played in Newfoundland, you've played in BC, obviously, you've been in Ontario, you've been in Alberta, you're about to be in Manitoba and Winnipeg now. But what's your favorite Canadian city? It doesn't have to be for basketball reasons. Just what's your favorite Canadian city? And we're gonna cross out BC. You can't pick any home cooking over there. But what's your favorite Canadian city?
Wow, that's a good question, man.
Other than Winnipeg, because obviously you're gonna say Winnipeg, but.
Oh man, okay. I'm gonna go off base of I guess just my experiences that I've had there, So I'll go. I mean, my one time going to Montreal was if you asked me this after my first summer with the Growlers, I would have said Montreal 100%. But then I went back there with my university team, and I don't know what it was, but it wasn't the same Montreal. I don't know. It was a different spot, and it just wasn't the same experience. So I would have picked Montreal, but I don't know anymore. Calgary was amazing, like the place we were living at, obviously, so I'm a little biased. Calgary was really nice, but as far as playing, like you said, no bad, but Winnipeg is the best playing experience. Wow. I want to get a good answer. This is a tough one, but man, that's a great question.
There's so many options, eh?
Yeah.
It's pretty
I
big.
like different cities for different reasons. Like that's a good one. Like to try to narrow it down to like your favorite one is tough.
I'll probably go with. I'm gonna go with Calgary, and the reason why I'm saying Calgary isn't because I spent the summer there last year, but this is more of like I've just noticed like my biggest career performances have happened in Calgary. Like just some of my best moments in life have happened in Calgary, and then playing there last year was amazing. So, and I went to my first Calgary Stampede. That was pretty cool. So I'll go with Calgary. But best playing experience by far, like as far as going to like an away game was Winnipeg ever. So
did you like the mountains in Calgary?
Man, the mountains were not BC. I'll tell you that. It's not BC.
Well, wait till you see the mountains in Winnipeg. We have this place called Garbage Hill. It's our most beautiful mountain. We could take you there if you'd like. You know, it's beautiful. It'll blow you away.
How many beach accesses on the way to that one?
I don't think there's any, believe it or not. But yeah, you got a really nice view of the city on top of Garbage Hill. So
you're putting up a real good sales pitch here for Tours of Manitoba or Tours of Winnipeg to sponsor this podcast.
We make up for it in many different ways, but yeah, we're lacking in the mountains and beaches. That's no city's perfect.
Yeah.
All right, great stuff. Okay, my last question here. Coolest thing you've experienced through basketball? So I think you've already touched on a couple of things, but if you look at everything and places you've been to that basketball has brought you, what's been the coolest experience?
Okay, so the J. Cole one was an easy one, but there's definitely more. Okay, so there's 2 or 3 I'll talk about. This one was last year. I had like my biggest game of my CEBL career against Vancouver Bandits. And the reason why that was so cool for me was because, like, I literally played in that same court, on that same floor, everything, when I was, like, a little kid. Through high school, middle school, like, I had people text me after the gym, like, that's your gym. Like, don't let anyone come in there. And, like, so, like, when I had that game and just it ended up being the biggest game of my career, like, just had an amazing game. All my friends and family were there, and like people that I haven't seen in years that are like super close to me, and like it was the first time that like my people in BC have got to see me play at that level. And like I got to see my dad and he was crying because he was like, like you've come so far, like to see you on the floor doing this. And the guy, it was against Nick Ward too. He was guarding me on like most of my shots, and so he was like going against like NCAA Final Four level opponents, like guys that you used to dream about playing against or playing with, and now you're like competing and beating on a high stage. Like it was just a cool moment for me, seeing how far I've come in my basketball journey. So that was huge for me. And then other one was I went to Taiwan to represent the national team in 3 or 4 summers ago. But yeah, that was amazing. Like it was the first time where I was treated like royalty. Like I went over there and I remember my first game, I had this highlight dunk go absolutely viral, and it got like 200,000 views like the first night. And in Taiwan, everyone was like, I didn't know because I couldn't speak the language, but I left the locker room one day or something, like the second day, and people just crowded me, and I was like, I had no idea what was going on. I was like, did I do something? Like I didn't realize basketball was huge there, like the way I know now. And everyone was like, just wants pictures and stuff, but I had no idea what was going on. Like I had media come up to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like do something, like what's happening? And like, yeah, that was probably the coolest thing because I led the whole tournament in assists, and there was like NBA players in the tournament, played super well, and just the way we were treated, like just felt like royalty. So that was pretty cool, seeing what a basketball could do. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, it's awesome. So my last question. Speaking of assists, I had a different one, but we'll stick with that. Do you have a favorite assist in your basketball career?
That's my favorite question of all time. 100%. That's my favorite question of all time because I be trying to. My passing, like I have way too much pride in the way I pass the ball because I feel like nobody's ever valued it. So I love that question. My favorite pass of all time. Okay, so there was one from this year that's a nomination for sure. There was 0.3 seconds left. We fouled one of their guys on a 3-point shot, like at the end of the half. So like there's 0.3 seconds left. Everyone's like, okay, he'll shoot these free throws. We'll go to the locker room. And I see like my guy hiding in the corner, and he looks at me and like just winks, and I was like, yeah, like I used to play football, let's see if I got it. And I remember just sprinting, grabbed the inbound, and I threw like a perfect right on the dime. Like he had 0.3 seconds to just get it up, and it was cash, and like that was a perfect pass. But I had a game-winning lob from like near the half-court line against UBC, and now that you say it, no, this is a full circle moment. You asked me like my favorite assist, favorite basketball moment. This is up there with my favorite basketball moment and assist. So UBC, like I said, started that cycle when I left. It started just like a journey of like all the stuff I dealt with as a human being, as a man, as a basketball player. And I remember there was a little bit of bad blood and tension between me and UBC, and I just remember like all the things they were saying about me and how like I had to just kind of like deal with it for 2 years, and knowing a lot of it wasn't true, I felt like it was just like, this is my chance to get back at them. So I remember we lost the first game to them, and I was like, I'm not letting my career go until I beat this damn team. So crazy game. They hit a shot, and like everyone thought this was the shot of the day. They hit a shot to like tie the game up with like a second left from like half, like a crazy buzzer beater type shot, where everyone was like, oh my gosh, like we were like Trinity Western was about to beat UBC, like it was about to be crazy. And it's on episode 4 of the documentary, actually. If you go watch it, it's a crazy like recap for the game. One of my favorite like cinematic things I've ever seen. And there's maybe like 1 second left, and I just remember like looking at Trevor, my coach, and being like, whatever play you're about to drop, I'm throwing it. Like, let's do it. And I threw a lob right into his hands, like to win the game. And it was just, it was perfect pass. Like probably the toughest pass I've ever thrown, but it was like, man, like the symbolism for me, like beating UBC, who's this top dog every year, and like the thing it put, like the path it put me on my left, and like all like watching people I thought were super close to me kind of fall away. So like, yeah, that moment was pretty cool for me.
Yeah,
UBC
that's badass.
Tough go with symbolism losses. There's that one. I don't know if you're following the U.
Let's not get started on that.
The UNBC upset that launched their Cinderella one for the first ever Canada West 12 team February Madness, we'll call it, I guess.
Big shout out to the UNBC. I love those guys. I'm a big fan of a lot of those guys. So
oh man, they were a pleasure to watch. I was doing the sidelines for that whole tournament, and they earned those wins, man. Like they were the Cinderella story, but for a 12C team, I don't know if they weren't as bad, I think, as people thought they might be. But that UBC game was huge, and then to shut down Manitoba at home with all the home fans and expectations there. And then they went toe-to-toe with Vic, and then they end up in the third place game, beat the number 2 Dinos. Just unreal. But so shout out to UNBC on that as well. That was a heck of a tournament. But with that concludes the longest rapid-fire sequence in any media in the world, Target Time. Thank you so much, Mason, for coming on the podcast. We had a blast. So, best of luck out there in Manchester for the rest of the season. But we're looking forward to seeing you out here in Winnipeg, and I hope it's all it's cracked up to be. I think it's shaping up to be an exciting season. So I hope that it follows through that way for you. Yeah.
No, I appreciate the time. This is fun. Anytime I get a chance to do this stuff, I enjoy it. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
That was Mason Bourcier, new guard of the Winnipeg Sea Bears, as we heard, Taylor, coming to a established team for really the first time in his professional career. But yeah, he's coming to a program that's been established for more than a year, and that has a little bit of stability, it seems. And he seems pretty excited to be coming.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, chatting with Mason. I've never said a word to him in my entire life until, sitting down with him for this. And yeah, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. And that might have been our longest target time ever, but it was a really good one. And honestly, as a journalist, the favorite thing you could ever hear from someone you're talking to is when they say, "That's a great question." And he said that several times during target time. So that made my day right there. It said both of us. So there we go. So we'll do a virtual high five for that. So job well done for us. But that was super fun. But actually, I wanted to ask you one of the target time questions, actually your question to him. I think he really liked this one when you asked them if there's someone from basketball and a non-basketball person that you could sit down and have a coffee with, who would it be? And I wasn't expecting his answer. That was really cool, the psychologist.
I thought for sure he was going to go music when I asked him. That's kind of not like you just kind of have an expectation. I was, I always like when I get surprised. I was not expecting a psychologist, and it also kind of talked to how deep that he is too as a person, right? Like beyond basketball, which was kind of cool to understand as well. For mine though, one basketball and one non-basketball. Man, is it weird to take Peja Stojakovic?
I would expect nothing less. Like who wouldn't pick Peja Stojakovic?
Honestly, it sounds weird. There's obviously Shaq would be my guy for sure. Shaq
Celtics legend,
favorite player. Yeah, if I find that Celtics jersey, that's like one of the biggest saddest moments of my life that I never picked up a 36 Celtics jersey that's not Marcus Smart. Instead, Shaquille O'Neal, the big Shamrock. But no, it'd be definitely Shaquille O'Neal. But I would love, because like no one really knows a lot about Peja Stojakovic, and he was like an underrated, unreal 3-point shooter. I think in the time he was appreciated, but it just like kind of, it's one of those guys in the era that if you were there for it, you remember, but like telling someone that didn't watch back then who Peja Stojakovic was, like, it'd be cool to kind of get his story a little bit more. And he has a son coming up too. But non-basketball, man, like that's the hard
That's a tough one,
because you can go anywhere with it. Non-basketball. Do you have one off the top of your head while I'm thinking?
Well, basketball wise, I mean, Pacers legend Peja Stojakovic is a great answer, but a different Pacers legend, you know, my favorite team, of course, Reggie Miller, my favorite athlete, never mind basketball player. It'd be hard not to pick him, but at the same time, I think I'd love to sit there and chat with Larry Bird for an hour. And I'm not saying that because you're a Celtics fan. I'm not trying to get on your good side, Joey Slattery. I don't care about that. But, you know, Larry Legend, Indiana boy, the French from the Hick from French Lick, sorry. My friend Aaron from Kenora, he's a diehard Larry Bird fan. All he wears is a Larry Bird Indiana State jersey all summer, anytime I see him. So he'll appreciate this answer. But Larry's a legend, man. I think it'd just be really cool to pick his brain. But Reggie Miller too. But for a non-basketball person, there's probably like 5 or 6 people that I could choose. But since it's WrestleMania season, Joey, and I am a diehard wrestling fan, for those who don't know, I have been since I was a kid, I'd probably have to pick The Undertaker. The Undertaker was my favorite wrestler as a kid. Here's a guy who wrestled for generations. He wrestled everyone from Hulk Hogan to AJ Styles and everyone in between. I think I have to go with the Dead Man. He would just have so many crazy stories. And these past couple years, he's finally pulled back the curtain. He's doing podcasts. He's doing all these documentaries and stuff. And he has all these amazing stories. And a fun fact, he used to date a stripper from Winnipeg. So, you know, hey, that's a tell me about that, you know, Mr. Taker. That's funny. So that's his Winnipeg connection. But yeah, like The Undertaker, since I was a kid, he was my favorite wrestler to this day. Still my number one. For my 30th birthday, I had a wrestling themed party. Yes, I'm that cool. And I dressed up as old school Undertaker. So I think if I could sit down and have a coffee, preferably a beer, but if coffee is preferred by the Dead Man, then we could do coffee. But yeah, I think it'd have to be The Undertaker, if I'm being honest with you.
That's a good one. I think if I were to go, it would be someone that's like multifaceted. That would be surprising. So I would say like maybe someone like Jay-Z. A guy who, rose up in the music scene, built his own empire, things that have worked, didn't work, but continues to be, relevant through, as he goes into like the mogul phase. Well, he's well in the mogul phase, but, less about the music now, but still relevant. Owning a basketball team is cool too. Another one, Matt Groening, like the Simpsons creator.
Wow.
To talk about, super.
I like that actually.
You brought up the Winnipeg thing, the Winnipeg stripper, and that, like, for some reason Simpson comes to mind. But no, like all the Winnipeg ties into the Simpsons. I'd love to learn more about that and what his connection is, or like where the connection came from.
I think he has family from Winnipeg or something. I might be making this up, but I think that's what it is, isn't it?
That's what I've heard. So I'd love to get it like directly from him, and also just kind of like, how do you make something last? A TV series for almost as long as I've been alive. Like, that's just insane. And like, I know it's a cartoon and everything, and you get some liberties, but staying true, the whole things they predicted and those conspiracies that have come out of The Simpsons. So like, yeah, I think I might do that. I've never even thought of that until this moment, but that might be a person I would go to coffee with, along with Shaquille O'Neal and/or Peja Stojakovic.
Nice. I think we both had the most random answers ever, but I love it. So hopefully me, you, Matt, and Taker, we can all meet up sometime and grab a drink and sit down. But
maybe we, sure. This maybe not in Winnipeg though, for Taker's sake, but we can figure it out. All right, man. thank you everybody for listening. This has been a long one, so if you're still listening, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
A good one though, long but good.
Very good one, and we have more good ones coming. We do have Alex Campbell coming up on a future episode, another newly signed guy, CEBL veteran. This backcourt, I tell you, Taylor, is looking really, really good. I know there's still a lot of signings to go around the league, but Winnipeg really kind of establishing themselves early. Chad Posham is going to be on the podcast as well before the season starts. We get into training camp as well as a few other people, but stay with us. A lot of big things in the works there, but thank you so much for tuning in. Taylor, as always, just a pleasure, buddy.
You bet, man. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Target Score Weekly podcast. To stay up to date with Winnipeg Sea Bears and CEBL news, as well as future episode releases, follow Joey and Taylor on Twitter and Instagram at TaylorAllen31 and at Joey Slattery TV. And wherever you're getting the podcast, be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.